Today, the first member of the Trump family will take the stand in the New York $250 million civil fraud trial. Donald Trump Jr. is scheduled to testify today.
I don't know if I'd want to lead with him.
Eric Trump will take the stand tomorrow. Ivanka Trump and former President Trump will testify next week.
I haven't seen him in a while. Have we seen? I haven't
Which
seen
one?
him in a while.
Not as
Junior,
much as
not
he
a whole
had
lot.
been.
Oh, he does like stuff on Insta.
He doesn't do it that much anymore.
It's not good when he does it. It's something's up.
Something's up. He doesn't.
Yeah,
he
he
doesn't,
doesn't
do it
feel
much.
good or
He
something.
doesn't.
Something's.
Yeah.
He is excited.
No, there's like a hyperactivity or something.
Yeah, he's up here.
Yeah. Anywho,
You read it. You read it. Go ahead. Let's keep going.
the former president has continued to rant.
I'm sorry to even bring that up.
Well, I follow. I kind of watch.
I know you do.
I can't help it.
I know.
All right. Continued to rant about the case online, including this truth, a social post, where he called out New York Attorney General Letitia James and posted her picture in court. Now, there's a limited gag order on the case, but it does not cover speaking about the Attorney General or the judge. Wow, he's immature. Let's bring in NBC News legal analyst Catherine.
Can we get
Christian.
Can we get a breaking news on that? He's immature.
Okay.
He's a 5-year-old.
It's just wow.
Let's bring in Catherine Christian. She's a former assistant DA in the Manhattan DA's
It's
office.
exhausting.
Also with us, the president of the National Action Network and host of MSNBC's Politics Nation, Reverend Al Sharpton.
Catherine Christian, very seriously, what do you think the Trump children will be able to add to this, or do you expect them just to plead the fifth all day long?
Well, assuming they don't plead the fifth.
Right.
Because if they do, that actually will hurt them. Typically, in a criminal trial,
It doesn't.
no comment. But in New York, in a civil case, the judge, in this case the judge or the jury, can infer by that taking the fifth that what they would have said would have been harmful to them. That's why they didn't answer the question.
So you say it'd be harmful to the outcome of the civil case, right?
Yes, the civil case.
But the problem,
if they take the fifth.
The problem that, and I was thinking about this coming in here, if you're one of the kids and you know
Right.
they've been cutting corners and they've been cheating at their father's behest, and their father has been lying about how much he's worth. Really, you're faced with, if you want to be safe and you don't want to commit perjury, I mean, you're faced with pleading the fifth.
Yeah,
Or committing perjury, so pleading the fifth may be their only route, right?
I always say that if you lose a civil trial, you lose money.
Right.
If you lose a criminal trial, you might lose your liberty. So that would be the advice that I would give a client. I said, well, you know, you could take the fifth and you'll probably lose because it'll be held against you in the civil trial.
Right.
But at least anything you say won't be used against you because you haven't said anything.
Right, and Mika, if you commit perjury in a civil trial, then you lose money and you get sent to jail.
So what about so pleading the fifth in a civil trial, you're saying is actually, it has more repercussions.
For the civil trial.
Yeah.
But what about saying I don't remember?
I don't recall.
Yeah.
Well, it has to be legitimate. I don't recall.
They've got
you can't just
documents.
I don't recall. I don't recall. I don't recall.
It'd be one
they will
thing.
do that.
It'd be one thing if you said, "Were you at the party on the night of October the 14th, 2019?" It's another thing to say, "Here's this document with your signature on it."
Well, what they can't say I don't recall to is that your signature? Yes. So a lot of the questions might be the Attorney General already knows the answer to. Were you at that meeting with so-and-so? Yes. And was so-and-so and so-and-so there? Yes. And is that your signature? Yes. Are you familiar with that document? Yes, that's a financial statement of the company. So they're not going to say, yes, we intended to defraud. It's really about getting them to admit under oath facts they can't deny.
Right, and once they have the signature, Willie, on a document that is clearly fraudulent.
Someone else sign?
Well, they just introduce, they say, okay,
Yes.
well, submit that into the evidence, and boom, the jury sees they signed a false document.
I don't recall. Maybe this will refresh your memory. So, Catherine,
We've seen a lot of Perry Mason.
Exactly. So let's take just a step back and remind our viewers what exactly we're talking about here, which is the accusation here is that the Trump children, I don't know, I hesitate to call them children. Don Jr. is 45 years old, but that they participated in a long-running scheme here to inflate the assets and do all the things that Donald Trump is accused of. So what role does Don Jr. allegedly play in all this?
Well, it's because the courses of actions that they falsified, the organization and the defendants falsified the business records with the intent to defraud, filed false financial statements with the intent to defraud, and filed insurance applications with the intent of the fraud. So Don Jr. and Eric and Alan Weisselberg were in charge of the company when the president was in the White House. Ivanka got out of it when she went to the White House, but she was part of it before the White House. So they were, you know, and they've said these in interviews, we're in charge of the company. So how, if you're in charge of the company, you're not aware of the business records,
but wasn't she doing
insurance applications?
Something while she was in the White House?
Yes, she also was part of a hotel deal.
Right.
And allegedly negotiated loans. So they can't really now say we really were hands off. Daddy did everything. So it's very hard.
So Reverend Sharpton, as discussed, Donald Trump Jr., Eric Trump ran the business while Dad was in the White House. You've known the Trump family as New York characters for a long time. Give us a character sketch, if you will, of Donald Trump Jr., what he's going to say today.
Well, Donald Trump Jr. is very loyal to his father. I used to see him all the time at Havana Room. And
by the way, Rev, can we do pre-politics kids and post-politics kids? Because I will say pre-politics, at least when I saw him out in social settings, very charming, very respectful, very deferential to people.
They seem nice.
no, very deferential, very nice, wanted to talk, would chit-chat. When they got political, it was a little more guarded, a little more, well, I saw Dad did a tweet against you, but you know, we're really not enemies. We just disagree. It was a little more trying to play diplomatic. I think the biggest challenge for Donald Jr. is that they have always played to the audience of one, their father.
Right.
And when he gets on the stand, he's playing to the audience of one, a judge. If he gets on the stand and plays to the audience of his father, he could get himself in a lot of trouble.
I mean, that's a brilliant insight because, of course, the one who hasn't been doing that recently, Rev, is Ivanka, because she and Jared have gone off and, you know, they have their own life. And Jared's always had, you know, you can talk about the money with the Saudis, but Jared's always had more money. His family's always had more money than Trump has had, something that always grated on Trump. But you see that separation a bit more, but you're right. The boys the men more endangered, I would think, because of that audience of one. Everybody that plays to that audience of one gets burned.
Yeah, they want to please Dad. And I mean, even in casual conversations, they want to please Dad. If they get on that and please Dad, they are going to have the wrath of that judge. And I think that's the danger, Donald Jr. has. And, I had Michael Cohen on Politics Nation the other night. He has told horror stories about how they defer to Dad. Ivanka was different because she was the only one of the kids that didn't need Dad's money to survive after she married Jared.
And Trump Jr., of course, has also become the family's emissary to the real far right, with the one with a political future of his own, people think. He also took that meeting, of course, with the KGB
and Ivanka is no longer a defendant. Remember, she had her own attorneys who were able to successfully win an appeal on her behalf.
Explain. This is the punishment phase. What are you looking for, not only in this testimony from the kids, which is obviously adding drama and intrigue to it, but in terms of the pace of this trial as a decision is made into how much Donald Trump should pay, because that's what's being decided?
Yes, because the Attorney General is requesting $250 million. People refer to it as damages. It's really
Do you think that will happen?
If the judge finds them liable, I think he will probably give $250 million in disgorgement, that's what it's called, to pay back for the money that they enriched themselves with.
Rev and I are smiling at each other because we don't think he's got $250 million to give.
No, I don't think he has it. And I think
it'll be appealed and then go on and on and on.
That's right.
Yes.
When does he pay if he gets found liable?
Well,
when he finds the $250 million to pay.
Well, there's a judgment. People who can't pay, there's a judgment attached. So anytime something's in your name, like a house or something, you're going to have to give it to the people who you owe money to.
Would he have to sell like at Mar-a-Lago, for instance?
Well, remember his businesses certificates were canceled by the judge. Now, that's been stayed by an appellate court. So basically, again, if the AG wins all of the appeals, the businesses will be dissolved, all of the Trump Organization's businesses.
Wow. Okay, NBC News legal analyst Catherine Christian, thank you very much for your insight.
And by the way, I just want to say that for people that say, this is the judicial system being weaponized against Donald Trump.
He was ripping everyone off.
People have been talking about this for 20 years. Like 20 years before Donald Trump ever went into business, ever went into politics, Rev. Everybody I ever talked to in New York who did business with him said he was ripping them off, he was cutting corners, he was defrauding banks. People have been saying this for 20 years. So anybody that says, oh, this is a judicial system that's being weaponized against Donald Trump, they're just ignorant and have no idea what they're talking about, at least in this case, because New York business people for years have been talking about how he defrauds banks and how he cheats and cuts corners in all his business deals.
And many tabloid stories have been about his business practices. I mean, going back years before he ever thought about going in politics. And he tried to play, he was savvy and a good businessman.
Everyone knows.
Everybody said he was slick and he was a hustler.
Everyone knows. Everybody who's been inside his New York City apartment in Trump Tower, and that's thousands of people, know that he inflated the size of that and many other things.
30,000 square feet?
All right.